Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm outside today and hopefully you can hear me because I do live on a main street and some of the cars are going to be coming by. But I'm outside for a reason. It is a beautiful spring day here in New Hampshire and I still have a lot of snow on the ground, but you've got, I don't know if you can hear the snow melting off the roof going down the gutters because it's beautiful out. I'm only in a long sleeve shirt, but there's still snow on the ground, which is perfect for snow dyeing fabric. And that's what we're going to do today. So what I have, and I'm going to show you a few of the ingredients. I have my fabric that I have pre-washed. Otherwise, you want to use a prepared for dye fabric or PFD. And that's not going to have any of the stabilizer in it and stuff that's going to kind of mess with the actual dye. And if you're seeing me swaying, it's because it's a little windy, you know. I've got this Dharma acid dye here. This is from Dharma Trading Co. And I've got a bunch of these. I've done a lot of dyeing in the past. But basically I'm going to sprinkle this dry over the snow, and as it melts, it's going to melt into the fabric. So I've got that, got a whole bunch of colors. And then, I have this thing that someone made for me a while back, and this is basically, I don't know, maybe 18 by 18, and you can do whatever you want, however you want to make something. This is just screening from, you can buy a roll of screening at the hardware store that you can use for your windows, and we just kind of stapled it to this. I've got two of these. So I'm going to bring you down to my setup. I'm going to lay the fabric out on this. I'm going to put on gloves. Got a mask too, because you know the powder, I don't want to be inhaling the dye powder as well. And I'm going to show you what I do, and maybe we'll do a little bit of a time lapse here. All right, I brought you down to what is basically my canvas, and I've got a whole bunch of dyes here that I'm going through, and I think I'm going to do like blues, purples, pinks, kind of in that range. I've scrunched up my fabric here. It is wet. It's pre-washed and wet because I wanted to really soak in the snow quite a bit. So it's wet, pre-washed. This is a Lizzie House pearl bracelet that's, you know, fairly old. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cover this in snow, and I will. I'm just literally just grabbing snow here, and I'm covering it loosely. And I want a good liberal amount on top. This is cold. So I'm going to do this now. I'll show you what I do. And then I'm going to take my dye, and I decided to use forks, plastic forks right now, to just kind of scoop in and sprinkle it over. So I'm going to put you in time lapse, I think, and show you what I do here. Okay, taking you down closer so you can see what I've done. I literally have like chunks of powder here, and it's just seeping into the snow. So you can see what it looks when it melts down. And I'm not concerned about those twigs because we're gonna wash this fabric after. And I just want it to seep down. I kind of went heavy-handed. We'll see what happens, but I've got a lot of fabric here. So we'll just kind of see. Here's the reason why you want to wear a mask. The wind just kind of blew some of the powder there, and you don't want to be inhaling that at all. So I'm going to keep checking in on this, see how it's melting. Hopefully the sun hits it soon, but yeah, I don't want to wait. I don't want to do a time lapse because it's going to take a little bit of time. So we'll just keep checking in on this. Okay, this starting to peek through is exactly why I wanted to use this fabric, because that printed piece is going to stay white, and then the fabric around it is going to dye. I cannot wait to see what this looks like when it's all melted and dyed. Okay, we clearly have some melting here. You can see we're starting to get some meltage around the edges, and you can see the colors coming out. This is why I really stuck within the cool tones, so like the purple, blue, red, even though red's more of a warm tone. but I really stuck with more of the cooler version of it. So that as they blended together, you can see, and I have a little spray bottle here. So I'm just kind of misting it a little bit here and there, just to kind of moisten it, help move things along. And then you can kind of see, let's see if we can get this. See a little dripping? So it's melting. One of the tips I give is you can see the wood here is taking on some of the dye color. If you're gonna do something like this, use something that you don't mind having dye on. So that's why I just use these wood frames here with the screen, which is just screens for windows. You can kind of see in there, we're getting some color. Now the bottom side, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So I'm just gonna kind of spray this a little bit, and that's gonna help with the meltage just a little bit. Keep it going, because this is about 2 hours later. And it's, what time is it my time? Like a little before 2 o'clock. I kind of want to pull this off before it gets too dark out. So I'll keep checking in. All right, you can see this. This is probably 4 hours after, and look at those colors. That is awesome. I'm probably not gonna let it sit too much longer, just because I did grab a fork to poke underneath, and it is saturating through, so I don't want it to get too saturated, but I'm loving these colors popping through. And again, this is why I picked colors that were near each other on the color wheel, essentially, so that it would look really cool when they blended together. And I love how some spots are darker and lighter, and I think you're gonna see that a lot when we unravel this. All right, I don't know if you can tell, but it is getting a little bit dark out. So I have some containers filled with warm water, and I'm just gonna pour this over. See if we can just melt some of this here. I brought 5 of these out, I may need more. And then I am going to just kind of set this out, kind of lay it out, see what it looks like. That's 2. Let's get 3. Let's see what we got. And it's funny that it's fun, really fun, not funny, fun to see what this is looking like as it melts. Whoop, there go some of the containers. All right. Excellent. I've got one more. Get out of the dye mixture there. Whoop. Okay. And last one that I have with me. Let's see. How is this doing? Gotta be honest, kind of loving these colors. All right, you know what I think I'm gonna do? Let me get some gloves on, because definitely want to, don't want to touch this with my bare hands, so let's get some gloves on. And let's open this up a little bit now that we've got some of that dye more dispersed here. I'm gonna actually lift this up and see the bottom. Did the color, oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's made its way through. Look at that. Oh yeah. And I love that we've got like little bits that, oh, there's still some dye there. So I'm gonna take this off here, lay it on my driveway, and let's take a look at it for right now. All right, here's what it looks like right now. Definitely needs to be rinsed, so I think these colors, once I wash it, will dull a little bit, but I love just the overall look and feel of it. And you can see how those pearl bracelets are just popping. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a big Tupperware bin, plastic bin, filled with warm water and some Synthropol, which is what's in a color catcher, and let this soak for a little bit before drying. All right, I'm just continuing to flush this out with water. You can see that water is very purple. You know, given that I've got reds and purples and blues, that makes sense. So I'm just running this, and I'm going to keep changing the water out in here until it runs fairly clear. And I'm going to let it dry, and I will give it a good wash with Synthropol and color catchers in my washing machine. Okay, this is what I mean by running clear. When I push this down, look at, you can see everything through as I splash it over. Things aren't kind of, maybe like a teeny tinge of purple in this case, but we're in pretty good shape here. So I'm gonna turn off the water and I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'm gonna wash it. Well, that faded when it was washed. In all fairness, I kind of wanted it to be faded, and I washed it twice, almost immediately after I dyed it. I mean, I did let it dry a little bit, but I kind of wanted it to fade. The reason being is this is the top that's going to be the back for. So I've got all these different colors to it, and you know, I didn't want it to be too bright and too dark on the back because it's a white top with some color. I use color catchers, and I'll show you. Here are the ones that I used the first time. Second time, these, you can see the difference. Some of the dyes coming out. This one happened to be in for both, so it kind of is darker than all of them. I think I used like 3 each wash just to make sure that I was getting that dye out and it wasn't going to sit in my washing machine so that my clothes didn't get dye on it. But you can kind of see here that I've got like little pockets of color. You've got some subtlety of the blues and purples and reds, and let me bring you this a little closer so you can see. I've got some little pockets of dye here and there. You can see little bits of different color. The pearl bracelets have a little bit of a purplish hue to them, and it looks different in the light. So yeah, here, my recommendation basically, if you like this technique, give it a try. The other reason this is probably pretty light is my dyes are probably almost 10 years old at this point. They're at least 10 years old actually, so I should probably replace them, and that's probably part of it. So get some new dye, get the smallest version size that they have available. They're not that expensive. Get a few and give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? You dye this a second time if you want it darker, but this is kind of the look I was going for, so I'm happy with it. I mean, this was a really fun experiment that I figured I would do on a semi-warm winter/spring day to take you along and see this process. I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe it sparked some ideas for you of things you might be able to do. I did want to say you can also do this technique with crushed ice as an example. So if you don't have snow, if you don't live in an area where there's snow, get a Snoopy snow cone maker and use that, or just use some crushed ice. No, am I the only one that had that? I hope you had one of those. Let me know down below if you had a Snoopy snow cone maker and if you would use that to do some dyeing of fabric. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. Get out there, create something beautiful. I will see you real soon.